Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and Happy New Year! Today I am running you through the entirety of my January personal curriculum, so the books I am reading, the languages that I am studying, and the general topics that I will be exploring. And I hope that you can get a sense of the theme that I'm going for in January. So if you want to build a self-led learning journey outside of the classroom, this is how I structure mine. So before we get into it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow along for more academic and lifestyle bits. Let's get into it. Now I hear you asking, Sarah, what is a personal curriculum? And I am so glad you asked, because it is not just about productivity and pretty aesthetic reading lists, but it is about seasonal intellectual focus and giving you the opportunity to study your own unique niche interests. January is such a good time to start because it is a generally slower paced month with thankfully fewer social obligations and a bit more mental clarity after the chaos that is the December festive season. Personal curriculums are also wonderful because there isn't so much of an emphasis on finishing everything within the 30 days. It's about actually exploring topics that you're interested in that you can transfer into the next month if you haven't had time to get to them. This year, I'm also going to be sharing my journey on Substack, so I'll be sharing weekly reflections as to where I'm at, how I'm feeling, and the topics that have really stuck with me. So, on to books. I know I'm not the only one who had the most chaotic 30 days that was December, and that means that I didn't get to do as much reading as I had hoped. So my first book of January is Children of Ash and Elm by Neil Price. It is the December non-fiction pick from my book club, The Gentlewoman's Library, and oh my goodness, it is just phenomenal. It breaks down the modern Viking myths, why they are absolutely incorrect, focuses on archaeological evidence, and a wide variety of textual sources that I didn't even know existed. It focuses on the Vikings' worldviews, personal views, their bizarre funerary rites, and just how different a culture they are to the mythologized version that we have floating around in our popular culture. This book has already been a bit of a slap in the face as to how little I know about a culture that I apparently am really interested in, so it has given me so many new avenues to go down outside of my university research. So if you're wanting to join our discussions, the book is still available on our Fable Book Club and all of our discussions live there. I'm still adding my thoughts to the books section and I can't wait to see yours. Moving on to my second book for January, which is our January nonfiction read, which is The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. What a book this is. I've started reading the first canto. It is a lot. Not only because the verses are formatted so differently to the poetry that I've read in the past, but it is so obviously a medieval text that has been translated, and I'm starting to see kind of how the medieval mind worked, and it worked very differently to ours. It discusses things like moral architecture, the medieval cosmology, language, symbolism, metaphors, you name it. It's probably in there. And I would be lying if I said that this has been an easy read thus far because it has been anything but. That is also linked in our Fable Book Club. It is a wonderful place full of wonderfully educated women. I would love to have more people join us in 2026. So if you even want a sprinkle of my personal curriculum in your life, that is the place to be. Now, moving to languages. I'm studying 3 because I have far too much spare time. Now, the first is probably the most questionable. It is Scots Gaelic. Someone Scottish, please tell me which way is which. And I just think it is a fun language. The first time I heard it was in Outlander. I'm going to be honest and say that that's where I was first introduced to it, but it sounded so different and I just was immediately enraptured in learning what on earth this language was. And so I am kind of stepping back into it. I will also be honest in saying that I got on the Duolingo train during COVID, and so I started doing Scots Gaelic on that. And so now that I am out of that phase, I will be taking a much more mindful approach to the language, and I also want to be able to speak it. I think a lot of people will just do the Duolingo and not actually speak it at all and be able to maybe read it okay, but I want to be able to pronounce it, and if and when I live in Scotland, I want to be able to shock people by speaking Gaelic. Now, the next language I have done a lot of, and that is Latin. I did a year of tertiary Latin in my undergraduate, but that was a year ago now. Almost 2. And that scares me because I have to translate multiple texts for my MPhil research. And so this is kind of a, oh my goodness, I need to remember how to do Latin. So not only is it a wildly important language in the world, it is also wildly important for my research and my academic endeavors. And I am very grateful for the fact that my grandmother is a Latin teacher. So I will be using a lot of her resources. I will be doing hopefully weekly and or fortnightly FaceTimes with her to get that Latin muscle working again. One thing I will say in in the midst of this language discussion is that you don't need to be a master at everything. Sometimes you just need the foundational skills to open your eyes to how broad and expansive the world of language is. And I think that's kind of the point of personal curriculums, is to really expand your minds. And so that's why I'm picking weird and wonderful languages. So on that note, my third language is Old Norse. And I said that a couple of months ago on my social media that I was going to be learning Old Norse. And then my honours thesis happened and I didn't do any of it because I had to focus on that. So now that that's done and I've finished that little chapter of my life, I can actually focus on Old Norse as a language. And so I hope you're seeing a theme here, because I'm reading a book about Vikings, I'm doing Old Norse as a language, and moving on to the central research topic of this month, I am focusing on Icelandic sagas. And I hear you asking, Sarah, what are you doing? Because your honours thesis was on English medieval monks. Your master's thesis will be on English medieval monks and a French pope. And my answer to that is to fulfill the little girl inside of me wanting to be a Viking. Even though she definitely would never have been one, I want to tick that box. So the closest I can get to is understanding their culture as best I can, understanding their language as best I can, and understanding the oral and story traditions that fueled their culture as a whole. Now, sagas are not just stories, they give us a wide variety of information about funerary practices, legal practices, and social hierarchical practices. They talk about honor culture, violence as social regulation, women's position in society, which, yes, it was very different to ours, and it is like, yay, girl power, but also, oh my goodness, terrifying. So, with all of that kind of pre-context in mind, the resources I will be using mainly come from the University of Iceland. You would be so surprised at how many resources universities have available for free. Literally, go online, look up a topic you're interested in, maybe pop in an ideal university. You will be shocked at the amount of free courses, free resources that you can have on hand. Also, things like the British Library, especially for languages, have a wonderful library, pun intended, of resources that you can use to better your self-learning journey. The British Library will also have photographs and maps and possible archaeological site photos that could also give you a lot more of a well-rounded understanding of a topic that you're interested in. So we've gotten the groundwork down, we've got the books, we've got the languages, we've got the crazy Viking stories that I will be studying, and now it's time to understand how I format my week around those ideas. So as I said, I am the exception, not the rule. I have an unusually high amount of free time right now because I am on break and I don't start my MPhil until April 1st. So I will be able to give a lot more time to this than some of you who might be working full-time, studying full-time at school, doing your life. But please don't let that stop you trying to pursue your self-learning journey. There will always be a way to make it work. You just have to hold yourself accountable and possibly implement a couple of time blocking practices, but that is for another video entirely. So my week is spaced out, obviously, through 7 days. I always give myself 1 day off because your girl's brain needs to breathe, but I will always try and give half an hour of reading to each book. So right now I'm reading half an hour of Children and Ashenelm, and I'm also reading half an hour of the Divine Comedy because I'm going to be trying to fit both the non-fiction and fiction books of my book club into this month while I can. I will also be doing at least 20 minutes of one of my languages each day. Now I might be a little bit of an overachiever in this department because I might do all of the languages on one day if I just have absolutely nothing to do and want to fill it with productivity that is cool languages. But the bare minimum once I get back to uni and once I get back to work is one language for 20 minutes a day. Now, note taking. A lot of people like to make pretty notes, and please, pretty notes are beautiful, but pretty notes may also not be the most productive way of jotting down your thoughts. So please focus your note taking on deeper connection to the text that you're writing and deeper cognition rather than does my highlighter make this look nice? Because I was once the girl who was like, I need several thousand highlighters. I still have several thousand highlighters in my desk, but now I will use one instead of 7 and I will use it sparingly. And please note that messy notes are absolutely allowed, because if that is how your brain needs to function, then honor that and don't try and be something that you're not. Now, the total time allotted for this self-learning journey that I give myself a day is 1 to 2 hours. And that is the culmination of reading languages and the topics. So that 1 to 2 hours will be used differently throughout the day. If it goes a little longer, excellent. If it's a little less, I'm not going to weep about it. Consistency will beat intensity every single time, and little bits throughout the week will always beat one intense day in the week and then brain fatigue for the rest. Listen to your body, listen to your brain, and do what's best for you. Now, as I said, I will be documenting all of my thoughts, my journey on Substack, and I will be continuing the book conversations on Fable. So if you're not following me on either of those, please join because I would love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts. You may get a couple of language rants of me not being able to understand things, but that just comes with the territory. Now, why does any of this matter? And if you've made it to this point, congratulations, gold star. Our concentration is dying, and a personal curriculum is my little antidote to the thing called the attention span crisis. Because right now, algorithm culture is just zapping our capacity to have critical thinking and to actually read or do anything for long periods of time, because we are so used to those baby dopamine hits every time we are on our phones. Having a lifelong learning journey is also your way of regaining a little bit of intellectual agency, deciding what you learn and how you do that, instead of having a curriculum set by someone else who doesn't know you, doesn't know your interests, and doesn't know how you learn. If you're more inclined to podcasts or documentary series, by all means, go head first. So if that's more of your thing, please don't let my curriculum influence yours. Go ahead and do what's best for you. You don't need credentials to think seriously, you just need the drive to want to better your understanding and better your education. Because an academic life doesn't come with a title or a pretty piece of paper. It is a practice and it is a promise to yourself to honor the most educated version of you. So with all of that, I would love to know what you're studying in January, what books, languages, podcasts, documentary series, weird and wonderful topics that you are filling your life with, because they might influence the rest of my year, which would just be so cool. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below, and I will see you next week for our next video. Bye!